Good evening, everyone. My name is Yvonne Nyitafu, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I'd like to welcome you all to the Understanding Hatua Bond webinar, where you get the chance to learn more about the Hatua Bond by INM, its key features, why you should invest in the bond, and everything else. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the team to introduce themselves so as we can go ahead with the session.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carlos Lissa. I'm a senior associate here at iTrust on the advisory and research team. Today, we're bringing you yet another investment opportunity from the Tanzanian capital markets. And today we have with us INM Bank, who have recently tapped into the capital markets with their new medium-term notes program, looking to mobilize capital from the market. I'd like to hand over to INM to briefly introduce themselves.
Thank you, Carlos. My name is Patrick Capella. I'm the head of Treasury and Bank Tanzania.
Good evening, everyone. I am Shazia Manji, Head of Corporate Banking.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dipali Ramaya, Head of Retail Banking and Bank Tanzania.
Thank you very much. Now, before we get kick-started, you are all aware of how rapidly the capital markets in Tanzania have been evolving. In the first 6 months of this year, you have seen other corporate bonds coming into the market, including iTrust's own bond, which recently closed. But today we are coming to you as investors with another investment opportunity being offered to you by INM Bank Tanzania. But before we get into the investment itself, it is important for you to understand who INM are and who INM Bank Tanzania is. Maybe, Patrick, could you shed some light on who INM Bank Tanzania is so that our investors are aware of who their investments will be sitting on?
Okay, thank you, Carlos, for this opportunity. So maybe before coming to INM Tanzania, first I'll start with the INM Group because the INM Tanzania is part of the INM Group, this group is present in all the East African countries, including Kenya, where the main presence is, and then in Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda. And the group itself has been in operation for more than 50 years. So just in 2024, we celebrated our 50 years anniversary as a group. So primarily, that's basically about the INM Group. Then I'll come to INM Tanzania. So INM Tanzania has been in the market for 15 years through the acquisition of INM Group when it entered the market, through the acquisition of CF Union Bank and later became INM Bank Tanzania. So INM Tanzania has been in operation for more than 15 years. And primarily, the bank service all customer segments, both corporate and retail. Historically, most of the customers that INM had been servicing were on the corporate space, but over the years, we've diversified our customer segments. We are a bank that services not only corporate customers, but also retail customers. So when we are going through the presentation, you will get to learn more about the INM Bank Tanzania. Thank you very much.
Okay, so from what I've gathered is INM Bank Tanzania sits under a very well-versed group from which it is supported, and it has this banking experience across these different markets from which it is now able to use some of its experience and tap into Tanzania's banking space, which is quite commendable, I must say. Being able to establish such presence across 5 different markets, as well as across different business lines, as we will see in subsequent slides, is quite impressive for this type of bank. We could go to the next slide. Just to give you a brief highlight about the group, the INM Group PLC is actually a listed entity, not only on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in Kenya, but also on the Rwanda Stock Exchange. Its market capitalization is at around $915 million, and also its Kenyan banking subsidiary, INM Bank Kenya, recently tapped into the capital markets in Kenya, where they raised a local Kenyan shilling denominated bond, which was able to raise around 23 billion Kenyan shillings, registering a subscription rate of 232%, which is quite commendable. In terms of the diversification across the region, maybe I&M team, could you give us some insights into the different business lines you have across these different markets?
Okay, thank you, Carlos. So, as earlier stated, our main operations is in Kenya, and that's where the majority of the business is. And of course, looking at other entities, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and in Mauritius, it's a joint venture with Bank One, and this has been also in operation for more than 10 years. But also as I&M Group, there's a subsidiary or I&M Capital which deals with the fund management, and this is also a key business line across I&M as well.
Okay, thank you for that. As mentioned, I&M Bank Tanzania has been in this market for over 15 years. It did undergo a ownership reshuffle, initially being called CF Union. However, today it is now called I&M Bank Tanzania. But also the group has continuously supported I&M Bank Tanzania, in which it has been able to support it as well in terms of the investments requirements to ensure that the business is sustainable in the local Tanzanian market. In terms of its branch network, I&M has tapped into very specific regional zones within the Tanzanian market, what you'd consider your key economic zones. I think recently the bank has expanded into new regions and is looking to increase that capacity. Maybe could you shed some light in terms of the banking presence I&M has in Tanzania and what its plans are to expand into these other regions?
I can
Yes.
say on that. So
Yeah.
currently, we have 9 branches, 6 in Dar es Salaam, and then we have presence in Arusha, Mwanza, and Moshi. We are looking to immediately expand in Zanzibar and Dodoma, and in next 3 years, we intend to double the branch network with 20 branches. But other than that, we have over 600 agency banking wakalas spread across the country that helps customer to do their transactions smoothly, regardless do they have banking presence or not.
Okay, wow, that's really impressive. I believe you also have a campaign going on which is being promoted in terms of the no fees. Maybe could you shed some light on
Campaign.
Yes.
Okay, so we started this. In fact, we were the first bank to introduce bank to wallet and wallet to bank transfers. We have it for free across all our customers, regardless it's an individual account or a company account. And if you do 100 transactions in a month, it is still for free. So free bank to wallet and wallet to bank transfers.
For those of you who actively use those distribution networks, that is something to keep in mind as you consider investing in this bond, as potentially using I&M Bank as one of your banking channels. Now, to give you a quick overview of the bank's financial highlights, we'll quickly take you over through the current position of the bank as of H1 2026. Looking at the bank's performance over the last 3 years from 2023 to 2026, you can see that from the business aspect in terms of its main business line, interest income has grown from 72 billion to about 122 billion over the 3 years to 2025. Its net interest income has almost doubled from 47 billion to around 86 billion. PAT has grown almost 5 times within these 2 years, from 4.7 billion to around 20 billion. In terms of its customer deposits, they were initially at 550 billion in 2023. Today, they are now at 721.7 billion. On the financing side, in terms of its loan book, the loan book was around 450 billion in 2023, and as of H1 2026, it is at 572 billion. But recently, I&M has also hit a very spectacular milestone. And maybe the I&M team, I'd like to welcome you to speak about this particular milestone.
Thank you, Carlos. So I'll speak and then maybe Shanda can chip in. So in the H1 or H1 2026, I&M Bank Tanzania reached the 1 trillion milestone in terms of assets. And this means that now I&M Bank Tanzania has officially become a tier one bank in the industry. This also shows how the bank has progressed over a period of years to become a tier one. So I believe that we are coming to the market at the right time to issue our corporate bond, but we have also become a tier one player in the market. So maybe Shazia can speak about the portfolio about I&M Bank.
Yes, thanks, Patrick. So just like Carlos mentioned, that if you look at the loan size as to what we were and where we are now, it shows that we have really grown, because what we have done is we have really diversified into the sectors that we play. So primarily, the main sectors that result to opportunities in the market, I&M is playing a very big role there. But at the same time, our focus is to diversify and see that the key sectors which results to economic opportunity in the Tanzanian market, we do take a forefront. We do a lot of risk participation. We do a lot of syndication deals in various sectors: oil and gas, mining, agri, you name it. Apart from the conventional banking that is happening, we, as part of our strategy, is also to see that how do we offer various products, whether it's trade loans, whether it's working capital lines, whether it's project financing, whether it's sustainable financing. Those are the key areas that are of major concern to us. And even in terms of the customer base, our focus is to again diversify, just not being corporate driven, but into retail segment, business banking. So we do a lot of supply chain finance. We do a lot of wealth facilities. We do a lot of asset finance facilities. So, and we believe that this 1-tier milestone that we have achieved, it is going to result to further growth for us based on the current portfolio that we're running with.
Okay. For those of you who are not familiar with what the Tier 1 status is, it is basically the group of some of the biggest banks in the country. So I&M now sits in this group among the other big banks in the countries that you are familiar with. In terms of its ratios, on the next slide, you will see some of the key metrics. These include things such as the income growth over the 3 years. As you will see, this has been on a positive trajectory in which the bank was able to register a growth of 218% in 2024. Subsequently, in 2025, it was around 32.3%. But even as of half year this year, relative to the half year in 2025, the PAT has grown by 7.62%. In terms of its loan book, the loan book has also been growing quite substantially. Within 2025, it grew around 22%. But then within the last 12 months, year on year, it has also grown around 14%. In terms of its asset base, the assets have now hit the 1 trillion mark, and year on year, that growth has registered at 16%. Also, in terms of the NPLs, which is a key metric for the banking sector, you will see very quickly that the bank has been able to moderate the NPL ratio from double digits all the way down to 4.18%. And for those of you who are not aware, the regulatory guidelines by the Bank of Tanzania, who critically guides and assesses the positions of the banks on a daily basis, the requirement is for this ratio to be below 5%. For those of you who do not know what it means, is every time the bank issues a loan, of course, the expectation is for these customers to pay on these loans. But there is that risk that the banks take that some customers actually end up defaulting. And for this, that is the risk that the business takes. However, as you can see, the bank has been able to moderate it and manage it, given their credit underwriting standards and their internal processes, which speaks volumes in terms of the business that I&M does. Moving on, even in terms of the cost to income ratio, this is simply the expenses relative to the income that's being generated. The Bank of Tanzania requires that this ratio is below 55%. And as you can see on the screen, I&M is well within the required benchmark Of course, you might see it's above by 0.2%, but by year end, the expectation is that it will be in line with these guidelines. In terms of its ROE, which is its return on equity, as of H1 2026, that is currently at 11.4%, and its return of assets around the 1.86%. Now, from the banking aspect, there is a certain ratio that Bank of Tanzania critically examines, which decides how much a bank can deploy in terms of capital. And this is referred to as the capital ratio. Now, the minimum requirement is 14.5%, but you'll see that INM is currently sitting at 17.6%. What this simply means is that INM has a cushion, or rather a buffer, over the required limit by the Bank of Tanzania, which goes to show you that they have taken the correct risk mitigation strategies to ensure that the capital that the bank deploys is well protected. Maybe INM team, is there anything else you'd like to add on these key ratios before we move on?
Thank you, Carlos. So just to provide comfort to the investors that the bank is monitoring these ratios very closely. Some of these ratios are also regulated by Bank of Tanzania. And as you can see, we have been complying to the ratios accordingly. So as part of our risk management on a daily basis, we monitor these ratios to ensure that there is full compliance. And obviously, if there's any risk, the banks have got strategies or initiatives in place to ensure that there are some mitigation measures to ensure that there are no breaches, especially when it comes to the regulatory ratios. We are very compliant. We are very proactive to ensure that there are no such breaches.
Okay. Thank you for those insights, Patrick. I think that paints a very good picture for potential investors. Now, just to give you a quick overview of the H1 performance of the bank very quickly, as I've already mentioned, the profit after tax for the half year 2026 came in at 8.6 billion, which registered a growth of 7.6%. In terms of its interest income, which is every bank's underlying business in terms of the loans it makes, the interest income came in at around 67 billion, which grew 12% within the last 12 months. From the non-funded income, for those of you who are not aware, banks have two income streams. One is funded income and the other is non-funded income. Funded income is simply the money the bank makes in terms of the loans it gives out to the potential clients that they have based on the funding it has. Non-funded income are other income drivers, such as your fee and commission income and other general income drivers that the bank receives through its other business lines across the different banking product suite. In terms of its cost to income ratio, as of H1, it currently sits at 55%. The bank also hit the 1 trillion asset mark as of half year, registering a growth of 16%. Its deposits base is at 721 billion, which grew 10% year on year. And the NPL ratio is at 4.18%, well below the requirement from the Bank of Tanzania, which is for it to be below 5%. Now, coming into the investment opportunity that we're bringing to you today, INM have taken the decision to tap into our capital markets, and in terms of bringing a MTN program, which is a medium-term program. You will now see the details on the next slide, where you will see the size of the program being 100 billion shillings. The issuer, of course, is INM Bank Tanzania. We as iTrust Finance have been mandated by INM Bank Tanzania, who are our partners, to be the lead advisors for this particular transaction. The offer is open to every type of investor, both local and foreign. In terms of the duration of this program, it is intended to be 5 years across multiple tranches. Today, we're coming to you with tranche 1. This particular bond will be listed in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. And of course, given the sweeteners that come with being listed on the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, this bond will be exempted from withholding tax. In terms of some of the use of proceeds over the duration of this program, INM looks to utilize this capital to grow its business. And how it will do this is across these 5 different line items that you see on the screen. in terms of continuing to grow its loan book in terms of the corporate side, retail and SME segments, but as well as diversifying its capital mix in terms of its short versus long-term funding. And of course, as previously mentioned, I&M Bank Tanzania sits under an umbrella of I&M Group Holdings, which is well diversified across the market, as well as it has the experience of banking and other business lines across 5 different regions. But also, lastly, one of the critical use of proceeds for the capital that is raised through this program is to expand the bank's digital infrastructure, which is what investors are well averse with, and which is what will be a selling point for a lot of the bank's customers, but also for you as investors, because for banks, especially at the scale of I&M, the more digital the banks are, the less the operational expenses they incur are, and which helps them boost the profitability and help them grow their business further. In terms of the Hatua bond, which is tranche 1, what you will see on the screen is a few of the key offer details. In terms of the tranche size, we're looking to raise around 20 billion Tanzanian shillings with a green shoe option of 5 billion. The coupon rate for this particular bond will be 13% per annum for a period of 5 years. There will be quarterly payments, meaning you will get paid every 3 months. The issue date of the bond will be in September 2026 on the 21st, and it will mature in 2031. Maybe Patrick, Shazia, Dipali, could you give us some color on how the bank is looking to utilize the proceeds from this particular tranche?
Thank you, Carlos. So maybe before we reach that stage, I wanted to explain the name Hatua. And if you can allow me to speak in Swahili.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah, asante sana. So tulichagua neno hatua kwa sababu tunaamini kwamba sasa hivi katika soko la mitaji kumekuwa na awareness au uhitaji mkubwa wa wawekezaji katika masoko ya kifedha. Kwa hiyo tumeona jina la Hatua linaendana na dira yetu ya I&M kwamba tunataka kumwezesha mwekezaji kupiga hatua katika uwekezaji, kwamba unaposhiriki katika hii bondi ya I&M ya Hatua unakuwa umeanza safari yako ya uwekezaji. Kama unavyoona hii bondi au hati fungani inatoa riba nzuri sana ya 13%, na riba hii inalipwa kila baada ya miezi mitatu. Ukiangalia hati fungani nyingine katika soko sasa hivi zinatoa riba kila baada ya miezi 6. Zipo chache ndio ambazo zinatoa kila baada ya miezi mitatu, lakini nyingi zinatoa kila baada ya miezi 6. Kwa hiyo na sisi tumekuja na hii product ya Hatua kumwezesha mwekezaji kupata riba yake kila baada ya miezi mitatu, lakini vile vile riba hii ya 13% ni riba ambayo ni nzuri sana ukilinganisha na riba ambazo zinatolewa sasa hivi katika soko. Utaona kabisa kwamba nyingi ziko kwenye 10%, 11%, 12%. Sisi tunakuja kwenu tunawaambia tunawapa 13% ndani ya miaka mitano na unakuwa unaipata kila baada ya miezi mitatu. Kwa hiyo tunaamini kabisa ni hatua nzuri katika uwekezaji. Asante sana.
Thank you, Patrick. Now, in terms of the key parties to this particular transaction, the issuer, of course, is I&M Bank Tanzania. We're looking to raise this capital from the capital markets. We as iTrust have been mandated as the lead transaction advisor, but also the sponsoring broker. The legal counsel for this particular transaction was Joachim and Jacobs Attorneys. The reporting accountant is Auditax International. As you're well aware, in terms of the coupon payments and in terms of the settlement, this entity will be the CSDR, who is a subsidiary of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So they will be managing all of your coupon payments and the payout upon the maturity. The receiving bank as well is I&M Bank Tanzania, who will be accepting your investment as the receiving bank. In terms of the regulatory authority, this will be the Capital Markets and Securities Authority, which is CMSA. Now, as Patrick was mentioning in terms of where the current market sits, in terms of the Tanzanian government bond market, what you'll see on screen is a portfolio of what we could consider similar maturity bonds, government bonds particularly. The Hatua bond is a 5-year bond, and what you will see on screen is government bonds with tenors of 5 to 10 years. And if you take a look at the rates that some of these bonds are giving you as investors in terms of the market, they range between 9.4 to 11.3%, way below the coupon rate that you are earning through your investment in Hatua bond. So you're earning about 3.5% in excess of what the current market offers in terms of the government bond space. But also from the recent 25-year auction, which took place on Wednesday, for those of you who aren't aware, the rates have come in as low as 11.4% for a 25-year government bond. Now, of course, you could argue that the government bond is risk-free rather, but over 25 years vis-a-vis 5 years that you're getting from Hatua bond gives you a very competitive investment opportunity, given that the bond will also be paying you coupons 4 times a year, every 3 months, relative to the government bonds, which only pay you 2 times a year. So that just gives you a brief overview on where the corporate government bond market is relative to the Hatua bond. Maybe for our Swahili listeners, if Patrick or Frank could chip in.
Wewe niongezea hapo kama alivyosema Carlos, ukiangalia government, unapokuwa tunalinganisha government bonds na corporate bonds, tunaanza kwanza kwa kulinganisha 5-year government bonds pamoja na 5-year corporate bonds. 5-year government bonds ziko at average rate ya 9.5 to 10%. Ukilinganisha pia na 10-year government bonds, 10-year government bonds ziko kwenye rate ya 11.3 mpaka 10.5 mpaka 11.3. Bado pia tukilinganisha na 25-year auction ya jana imeenda mpaka 11.4. Una muda mrefu wa kuinvest for 25 years, lakini rate bado ni ndogo. So hii corporate bond ya I&M inakuja kukupa wewe premium above the government treasuries. So kama tunalinganisha na tunatakiwa kulinganisha 5-year government bonds na 5-year corporate bond. 5-year government bond inakupa 9.4, nikilinganisha na 13%, kuna almost 4% premium ambayo inakuja on top ya ninachokipata kwenye hii government bond ya miaka 5 ama government bond ya miaka 10. Kwa hiyo ni opportunity ambayo ni nzuri, kwa sababu bond imekuja muda ambao government bonds zake ziko chini sana, lakini on the other end I&M wanakupa premium. Kwa hiyo unaweza kuwekeza kwa muda mfupi zaidi ukapata rate ambayo ni favorable, nzuri zaidi kuliko ambacho ungeweza kupata kwenye government bond. Carlos ataeleza kwa mbele corporate bond kuonesha kwamba hii bond sio kwamba iko priced above the other corporate bonds kwenye soko. Kuonesha the next slide utaona iko fairly priced. Tangia mwaka huu na mwaka jana kuna corporate bonds tofauti ambazo zimekuwa issued kwenye soko letu, na ukiangalia nyingi kwa mwaka tangia mwaka jana mpaka mwaka huu hapa saizi average rate ni around 30. So tuna juu kabisa ambayo ilikuwa ni 14% ambayo ilikuwa ni bond ya EFTA, na ya chini kabisa ilikuwa ni TMRC ambayo ilikuwa ni 11%. Hapa katikati tuna bond za Stawi, tuna bond za CRDB, lakini on average returns tuna bond ya ITAS pamoja na bond ya Hatua. Sasa bond ya ITAS imeshafungwa, hamna tena application sasa hivi, lakini tuna bond ya I&M ambayo ina 13% ambayo ni Hatua, which is very fair, which is very competitive as well. Na hii ni kuonyesha tu kwamba haijawa overly priced ukicompare na corporate bonds nyingine ambazo zimekuwa kwenye soko letu.
Just to mimic what Frank has already said, I&M is coming into the market at quite a similar rate that you have seen across the other corporate bonds. Some of the bonds that have come into the market in 2026 include the likes of First Housing, EFTA, TMRC, iTrust, all of which came in mostly around the 13% end. Of course, EFTA came in at the higher end at 14%, with TMRC coming in the lower end at 11%. However, First Housing and iTrust, as well as Stawi, which was last year in Q3, all came in around the 13%. So I&M is coming in at quite a competitive rate in the corporate bond space. and it gives you a very unique investment opportunity from which you can now deploy your capital, which will earn you 13% every year for the next 5 years, from which you'll be able to reinvest these coupons as well into other investment opportunities that you have. Now, why should you invest in the Hatua bond? Maybe Patrick, Shazia Dipali, what would you tell our investors here? Why should they invest in INM today?
Okay, thank you, Carlos. So I think the key selling point for us is the attractive coupon rate, which we believe at this time it is rightly priced. Looking at other instruments in the market, 13% is a very competitive rate, and we want the customers to take that step out bigger Hatua, and that's why this rate is being offered for the Hatua tranche. But again, as rightly said, that this bond will be paying coupon on a quarterly basis. And for any rational investor, they know that if you receive your money early, you can do something else with money. You can reinvest it somewhere and earn an attractive return. So that reinvestment means that you will be able to get a more premium than 13%. For example, maybe after 4 months, your interest is around 10 million. It means that 10 million, you can invest it again and get higher return. So that frequency of coupons enable an investor to generate more return. If you look at the effective yield for the investor, it will be even more than 13%. But again, a very key aspect is that the Hatua bond is approved by the CMSA. So this gives confidence to the investor that the Capital Market and Security Authority has given an approval for INM to issue the Hatua bond. But also INM Bank is regulated by Bank of Tanzania. We are a licensed bank, so we are a regulated entity, and that also creates confidence to the investor. So maybe Shazia, you can speak about the withholding tax and other areas. Yes.
Yeah, so just like Carlos had also mentioned, there is no withholding tax, so you get your net amount. And again, INM being a growing bank, a first tier 1 bank, it's only good for you to grow with a bank that is also growing. Even if you look at Carlos, our customer segment that we have, majority of the CF Union customers are still with INM. So it really tells you that as the bank grows, even the customers, they grow. So the customers who bank with us are here to stay and to grow with the bank. So similarly, we're in the market to see that we're getting new investors, we're getting new customers, because for us, we try to reciprocate and we tend to ensure that whatever funds we raise, the customer deposits that we have, are used wisely. We do selective banking. We ensure, you must have seen from our NPLs, that we don't just lend to anyone in the market. We're very selective in terms of how we use the investors' funds, and we ensure that they are used rightly in the right manner, and the returns are also lucrative for them.
That's great. And maybe one key detail that we might have forgotten to mention is, maybe when is the first coupon going to be paid to these investors?
That's good for Christmas.
For those of you who haven't heard, the first coupon in Hatua bond will be paid around Christmas time, which gives you a very good opportunity for you to make your budgets for the year end and for the festive season.
Yeah, very strategic time of the year.
Now, in terms of what your indicator return profile will look like, what we have on the screen is a very simple simulation across different investment amounts and the types of coupons that you will be receiving over the 5 years. But a brief snapshot in terms of potential investments, I'll just quickly take you over through an investment of, let's say, 500,000. The minimum investment for this particular bond is as little as 500,000. Of course, you are free to invest how much you'd like to, but for those of you who would like to know what that minimum requirement is, it is 500,000. For an investor investing 500,000, every year you'd receive an annual coupon of 65,000, with quarterly payments of 16,250 shillings. Over the 5 years, the total interest that you would have earned is 325,000, and the total that you would receive at maturity is 825,000. Now, of course, the more you invest, that bigger that amount becomes. As you will see, for someone who invests 10 million, for instance, over the duration of this 5-year period, the total interest that they would earn is 6.5 million. And at maturity, the investment of 10 million would now be worth 16.5 million, which is quite significant for an investment over a 5-year period. So these are just some numbers that you could keep in mind. And maybe for the sake of our Swahili listeners as well, we can have that covered.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. Just to emphasize, hapa tunachoonyesha ni kwamba mwekezaji atakuwa anapata return au riba yake kila baada ya miezi mitatu, na jinsi unavyoweka kiwango kikubwa ndo jinsi utakavyopata return nzuri. Kwa hiyo tunajua kiwango cha chini ni shilingi 500,000, lakini mwekezaji anaruhusiwa kuwekeza kiasi chochote atakachoweza kuwekeza kutokana na uwezo wake, na hii inaweza ikafanyika kwa kuanzia 500,000, wanasema ni multiples of 10,000. Kwa hiyo unaweza ukaweka 500,000 na 10 na kuendelea mpaka kiwango cha juu utakachoweza. Na nadhani Frank anaweza akaingia akachip in. Unaweza tumeopen hii offer kwa kipindi cha mwezi mmoja. Kwa hiyo kama unaenda sasa hivi unaweza ukawekeza let's say 1,000,000. Baada ya muda, kabla offer haija close, unaweza tena ukaja ukaongeza tena hivyo hivyo mpaka itakapofika tarehe 4 ukawa unafanya kidogo kidogo. Kwa hiyo tunatoa hiyo flexibility kwa mwekezaji, so lazima uwekeze hela yote sasa hivi, lakini as long as bado kipindi cha offer hakijafungwa, unaweza ukaweka kidogo kidogo mpaka itakapofika ile tarehe ya mwisho ambayo ni tarehe 4. Baada ya hapo sasa ndio hakutakuwa na maombi mengine ya kupokelewa, lakini kuanzia sasa hivi mpaka itakapofika tarehe 4 Septemba unaweza ukawa unawekeza kidogo kidogo.
Kwa kuongezea tu hapo kwa Patrick, hii profile ambayo inaonekana hapo, kwa mfano kwa mtu anayewekeza lise 10,000,000 kwa lugha nyepesi, kwa mwaka anapata 1,300,000, lakini hii bond inalipa kupon kila baada ya miezi mitatu. Kwa hiyo kwa lugha nyepesi, kila baada ya miezi mitatu atakuwa analipa 325,000. Kijumlisha kwa miaka mitano atakuwa ameshapokea 6,500,000 kama faida peke yake. Kwa mwisho wa mwaka atarudishiwa ile 10,000,000 aliyokuwa ameweka mwaka huu. Baada ya miaka mitano atarudishiwa 10,000,000 aliyokuwa ameweka mwaka huu, akijumlisha na ile faida ambayo alikuwa akilipwa kila mwaka. Tunaongelea ni jumla ya kiasi cha 16,500,000 ambacho kinakuwa kimesharudi kwake, ambao katika ile 16,000,000, 10,000,000 ni ya kwake aliyoweka mwanzoni wa mwaka, ambao atapewa baada ya miaka mitano, alafu 6,500,000 ameshalipwa hapa katikati. Kila mwaka alikuwa analipwa 1,300,000 kwa miaka mitano, na inalipwa kila baada ya miezi mitatu. Kwa hiyo kilingana na kiwango ambacho mtu anakuwa anawekeza, basi utafuata profile hivyo hivyo. Nimeona hapa kuna swali mtu ameuliza, is it compounded or not? Hii bond ni fixed, sio compounded. Kwa hiyo unachokuwa unakipata kiko fixed. Ukipewa gawio la lise 325,000 kwenye kwota ya kwanza, unaweza kuamua sasa nikiwekeze kwenye mifuko ya uwekezaji ambayo iko hapa ITAS, itakupa faida ambayo yenyewe inafanya compounding. Lakini bondi kama bondi haina compounding interest, ni fixed return kwa miaka mitano.
In terms of who can invest, this bond that we're bringing to you today is open to everyone, different investor groups, different institutions. So of course, individuals, for those of you who have joint accounts, for those of you who have children, but also for foreigners, for those of you who are outside of Tanzania, especially our diaspora community, also mutual funds, unit trusts, our pension funds, institutions, as well as corporates. So this investment opportunity is open to everyone. There is no restriction. Anyone can invest in this Hatua bond. In terms of the offer dates and key dates that you should keep in mind, the offer period opened on the 3rd of August, which was Monday this week, and will run through the month, closing on the 4th of September. So from today, which is the 7th of August, you have all the way from today till the 4th of September to capitalize on this investment opportunity that INM is bringing to you by investing in Hatua bond. On the 4th of September, we will close the offer, after which we will now undergo the regulatory processes and get the necessary approvals from which we can now go ahead and list the bond on the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. But one key detail that a lot of investors would like to know is, when does my money start earning something? And you will see on the screen that is on the 21st of September 2026. So although that the listing of the bond itself on the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange will be on the 13th of October, your money will start earning something as soon as the 21st of September, which should give you comfort that whilst we await for the other processes to take place in the background, your money has already started earning something as you approach that first coupon period. Maybe before we close and open it for questions, is there anything else you would like to add to give our investors more light in terms of what we're bringing to them today?
Thank you, Carlos.
I think just maybe to highlight to them the platforms through which they can apply.
Yeah.
Because I see there's a question here. They're asking whether they can invest via iTrust app. Yes, definitely you can.
Yeah.
iTrust being our lead advisors, but also the platform of INM. You can do it through the web, through our app, and even at our branches. If you visit any of our branch, our people will be more than happy, to get you registered.
Maybe pia cha kuongezea hapo, the applications have to be done within this period. Na maana kuanzia tulivyofungua tarehe 3 mpaka tarehe 4, mtu yeyote ambaye anataka kusubscribe kwenye hii bond anaweza akatumia application ya iTrust. Ukiingia kwenye application ya iTrust ukafanya application, ama ukiingia kwenye application au portal za INM ukafanya application, ama pia unaweza kwenda kwa broker wako yoyote. Unaweza kuja iTrust, ama unaweza kwenda kwa broker wako yoyote, ukaenda pale akakusaidia ukaweza kufanya subscription. Form na application zifanyike kipindi cha huu mwezi mmoja, na malipo pia yafanyike ndani ya huu mwezi mmoja. Kwa hiyo tunasisitiza sana watu waweze kufanya application na kuweza kufanya malipo ndani ya kipindi cha mwezi mmoja. Na iko open, unaweza kufungua account kwa ajili ya mtoto, unaweza kufungua account kwa ajili yako, unaweza kufungua account jointly, ama unaweza kufungua kwa ajili ya kikundi ama kampuni. Na application zote zinakubalika.
I think with that, that brings us to our presentation end. I'll now hand over back to our moderator, from which we will now open it up to the rest of those of you who have joined us online.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Before we go to the Q&A session, I'd like to display a short video on how you can invest through the iTrust app. Carlos, if you can take us through as I display the video.
So for those of you who are looking to invest in a Hatua bond, you can do it through multiple channels. For those of you who are already iTrust clients and who already have our app, you can do it through the iTrust app. For those of you who don't have it, please download the iTrust app, from which you will now be able to make your investment. I hope you can see the screen, from which we'll quickly take you through how you can invest in Hatua bond through our iTrust app. For if you're an existing client, you will simply have to sign in. If you've already done this, it will simply be as simple as putting in your PIN. But if it's your first time, you will now be prompted to insert your email address and your password, after which you can then click the sign in button. On the home page, you will see a block on the middle of the screen there, which under the features section reads INM Hatua bond. You can simply click the invest now button, which will take you to the landing page on the next screen, giving you the opportunity to now place a subscription. What you will see on the screen are a few details of the Hatua bond itself, in terms of the offer, as well as some of the key dates, such as when the offer opens and when it closes, but also the coupon payment dates, which are critical dates for you as investors who would like to know when you would be receiving these coupon payments. After that, you can click the subscribe button, from which it will now take you to this page, which you will have your CSD number already linked, your CDS number linked to your iTrust account. from which you will then click the continue button, which will then take you to step 2 of 4. Now on this page, you will insert the amount you would like to subscribe from as little as 500,000 in denominations, or rather multiples of 10,000 shillings, and then click continue. Now it will take you to a page to review and confirm your order and to ensure that all your details are correct. And one detail that I would like all investors to make sure that they are sure about is on the bank details. These are the bank account details that you will receive your coupon payments to. So for those of you who need these coupon payments coming to certain accounts, please ensure that these details match your underlying individual details, or if it's a joint account, minor account, or any different type of account. After reviewing your details, you can then confirm your order by clicking the button at the bottom of the screen. And once you click I confirm, it will now give you the payment details. You will have a unique reference number, which will be your CDS number. So as you are making a payment to this bank account, the bank account is at I&M Bank. So it is as simple as a bank transfer from your whatever bank you use to I&M Bank. The bank account details are there on the screen. You can simply copy and paste them. But as you are sending over the capital to I&M's bank account, in the reference section, please ensure that you do put in your CDS number, your DSC CDS number, so that we are able to match your payments. After that, you can then make that payment and then click continue. And once you have the proof of payment, you can then upload it by clicking onto your order. So as you can see, there's a description there that says click any order to view and upload your proof of payment, from which it will now give you the opportunity to either take a photo or upload a photo of your proof of payment. You can upload multiple documents or files. So if you've made multiple payments for one order, that is fine. And for those of you who need to copy the reference number or the account number, you can also do this on the order details page, after which it will now complete your order. After that is done, on the top of that screen, you will see that your order is complete, and that will bring you to the end of the subscription journey from now, which we can say you as an investor have been able to invest in Hatua bond. So that's just a brief overview of the subscription journey for those of you who will be doing it through the iTrust application.
Thank you very much, Carlos.
I think we will share I&M video in the near future.
Yes, of course. Of course, for those of you who are I&M customers or who are using their platforms, you're also available to make your subscription through those particular channels.
Thank you very much, Carlos and team. If you have any questions, mnaweza pia mkauliza kwa Kiswahili kwenye chatbot and tuta respond in both languages, English and Swahili. So we have a few questions here. The first question is, what happened to borrowings between 2025 and 2026?
Okay, maybe I can take that question. Primarily, a bank does have different funding methodologies. You can either fund by taking customer deposits, but you can also borrow both short-term and long-term. So primarily, to answer the question, between 2025 to 2026, we as a bank had entered into partnership with some of the multinational DFIs. This enabled us to source funds from these international DFIs for long-term funding or long-term borrowing. So we had some transactions which we closed in 2026, and you will see that they created an increase on our borrowing because of this partnership with the international institutions. So as a bank, we also have partnership with international institutions where we go and source long-term funding to support the growth of our asset book.
Thank you very much, Patrick. We have another question. Can you explain the factors leading to the decrease in non-performing loans?
Okay, so I'll take that. It's a good question. So it shows that you're following the financials. Okay, so As you know, that as per BOT, whenever we're doing any credit assessment or providing a loan facility, we are required to have a cover of 125%. And like I initially say, that INM is very selective. We ensure that whatever lending we do is cautious lending. So majority of the loans that we have in our books are fully collateralized. So even the legacy accounts, which were non-performing, though they were written off, we still worked towards recovery because that was part of our strategy, that we have to ensure that these are fully recovered. And that is what resulted to 70 billion worth of recoveries that we did this year itself. So January to date, those are the recoveries we have done. And even last year, we did recoveries worth of 20 billion shillings. And because these assets were fully collateralized, we managed to recover the amount. So it really helped us. And that is why, as a bank, we continue to drive this strategy that, yes, we want to be competitive in the market. We do provide unsecured loans. It's not like we don't, based on the product, based on the nature of the transaction, based on the sector. However, we ensure that the loans don't turn bad. So the other factors that we also took into account is the credit monitoring. So both business and credit, we ensure that all the loans that we have in our books are monitored jointly. And this has become quite robust. And that's why you see that there is a huge difference in terms of what the position was in 2023 and what it is now. So despite of the legacy accounts being written off, it gives you confidence that the bank still continued to push and recover, because we know that primarily that is the right thing to do for us. It's easy to just write it off and have it as a non-performing loan in your books. But then for us, our recovery team, business and credit together, we went with those names and we ensured that whatever bad loans were there, they were fully recovered. Thanks.
So what I hear is that there's essentially 3 layers of protection for those of you who have questions about that. This bank is not only a risk taker, but it's also a risk manager. And to give you a quick overview on what the layers of protection that the bank is offering you, there are 3 key details that you can look at. The first is the capital position. Of course, BOT requires that capital ratio to be at around 14.5%. INM currently sits at 17.6%. So before anything can even hit you as a bond holder, that buffer has to be exhausted before it can now come into you at the bond level. But on top of that, for those of you who are not aware, whenever a bank issues a loan, they have to have something called a provision, which is essentially a cover. Of course, in an ideal world, every borrower will pay, as of course INM will pay you back, right? We can tell you that today. But from a customer perspective, not every borrower pays back. And so given the risk that the bank is taking, they have certain provisions. And based on this bad book, what you would call your non-performing book, INM actually covers more than 100% of its bad book. So that not only does it have that capital buffer, it has a provision of over 100%. But then on top of that, it has diversified its portfolio across multiple economic segments across the economy, your agriculture, trade, transportation, construction. And the benefit that INM has in terms of its segmentation of its portfolio across the corporate and retail and business banking book is that it is able to moderate this NPL ratio of yours. I think it's an understatement in terms of how the bank has been able to bring down that ratio from 17% to 4%. A lot of people who are not familiar with the banking space will overlook that particular feature, and it is extremely commendable. It's something you do not see in any market. Even if you look at the region or in the general African region, it is very difficult for banks to bring down this ratio. Yet INM has not only been able to bring it down, but it has been able to do it by recovering, which gives investors that assurance that this bank will not simply take this capital and deploy to any risky businesses or customers, it has prudent risk parameters that it must meet before it can deploy this capital. So I hope that gives you as investors some of that assurance.
Thank you very much, Carlos. We have another question. Please explain the reinvest quarterly coupons to compound returns over the 5-year tenor.
So maybe let me take that. This bond does not compound interest. It's a fixed interest. But what you can do is any amount that is being paid to you on a quarterly basis, you can choose to reinvest it in a fund that compounds interest on a daily basis. So at iTrust, we have multiple fixed income funds that do compound interest on a daily basis. So you can choose to receive your interest from the Hatua bond and reinvest it in a money market fund or a fixed income fund that iTrust, which accrues interest on compounds interest on a daily basis. And then your interest from Hatua bond will earn interest in iTrust funds. So in interest, it's earning interest on top of interest. So that's the alternative that an investor can have when they want their interest to be compound.
Thank you very much, Frank. We have another question. Please explain the risks associated with the Hatua bond and the measures available to mitigate them.
Okay, maybe I can take some part and Frank, yeah. Yeah, so it's a very good question because I can say any investment has got risks associated with it. I think any investor will know that there's no risk-free investment. So for particular the Hatua bond, maybe I can say because this after a period of time, after the offer closes, it will be listed in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. And once it is listed, it means that the prices at which the investor wants to buy or sell will be determined by the market. So now there will be risks associated with the cash flow. It can either go up or down. So once it is listed and the price might change from time to time, the income that the investor who wants to, for example, wants to exit or wants to sell the bond will mean that the price will be determined by the market. But ideally, we believe that most of these bonds, because the coupon is very attractive, investors will hold them till maturity. So it's only when they want to exit, they'll need to understand that there are risks associated when you want to exit the bond through the secondary market. So I think also we will encourage our investors to also go through the information memorandum to understand in detail what are other risks associated with the particular investments like the Hatua bond. But maybe, Frank, I'll allow you to chip in and explain more.
So thank you, Patrick. So I'll put in something and then Carlos will also add in some. The information memorandum, which is also available across iTrust website, is also available at I&M website. There's a section number 8, which speaks about risk factors, because this is like any other form of investment, it has its risk. But also the good thing with the risk, there are mitigations that have been addressed in that particular section. So for investors who want to review a detailed portion of the risk, they can revisit the information memorandum, section 8. It has the risk factors and the mitigation. So the risks are categorized into 4 or 5 broad categories. Risks that will affect the entire economy and the mitigation. Patrick has mentioned risks related to the market. There could also be risks that are related to this particular notes. I'll just point out a few of them. This particular program is a multi-currency. And it being a multi-currency, there's a possibility when they issue the second tranche in USD, there's a possibility of currency fluctuations. So investors need to be prepared in terms of currency fluctuations, the volatility and how to hedge them, and the depreciation of the currency. That has also been addressed into the IM. There's also a possibility of, in terms of the notes being issued and the liquidity of the notes being issued in the market. Sometimes, as Patrick has said, sometimes a client might want to sell and there are probably no buyers. But that has been counted in several ways. One of the ways being iTrust being one of the supporters in the secondary markets. we will always be standing ready to have clients to buy and trade those bonds in the secondary market. So pretty much we offer the liquidity to the market. When someone wants to exit, they should have the mechanism to exit smoothly without having any issues.
Also, just to add, one particular detail that is worth keeping in mind is that you can also use your investment in this bond to borrow from other financial institutions. So for those of you who need that capital, that liquidity, rather than selling the bond, an alternative would be to use it as collateral to borrow from another financial institution so that you do not forego that interest that you would be earning at 13% every year for the next 5 years, being paid 4 times a year. But also, just to reiterate what Shazi has mentioned, the bank is issuing collateralized loans, which means there is already a cover built in that facility that they're issuing to their clients. Not only that, the Bank of Tanzania also has certain requirements that the banks have to meet, not on a periodic basis, but actually a daily basis. There are certain capital positions these banks have to maintain, and they're being closely monitored by the Bank of Tanzania. In the event that they do not meet these requirements, the Bank of Tanzania closely follows up with them and requires them to provide a strategic plan on how are you going to navigate away from this particular situation. But then also, just to re-mention my previous point from a umbrella perspective, the bank does sit in a good capital position. And to put it into perspective, you as a debt holder form part of the business, and it's basically a cost of I&M running the business. Today, they are coming to you to borrow these funds from the market, from which they can now grow their own or business, or rather the banking business. So in part of the business that they're able to generate, some of the costs that come with it are the investments that you are making as bondholders. They are paying you a return for you investing into Hatua bond. So this should give you quite some reassurance in terms of what are the underlying risks, but also to show you that I&M does meet the regulatory requirements, and they have their own internal requirements which governs their position as a bank.
Thank you very much, Carlos. We have 2 more questions. Am I allowed to exit the investment at any time before the 5-year maturity period? So are there any penalties or charges? And an underlining question. After 5 years, will my initial investment be subjected to tax when it is returned or withdrawn?
Okay. So yes, you can have an early exit. This bond will be listed on the stock exchange. So the route that is available for investors to exit is for them to sell the bond into the market. So if you want to exit before the maturity, you can go through any other broker, including ITAS, place your order to sell, and it can be bought, and then you have your liquidity back. Yeah.
Thank you.
The tax part. And then it's at the end of 10 days.
No. Okay. So in terms of tax, this bond does not attract any form of tax. Yeah.
The principal amount you get 100%.
Yes.
Judge.
Thank you, Frank. Our last question reads, as part of I&M Tanzania long-term debt, have they issued any 5-year bond before? If so, what was the rate?
Yeah, maybe I can take that. No, the answer is no. This is the first program that we are coming to the market. So we have not issued any bond before.
Yes. Another question, yeah. No tax for both local and foreign investors?
Correct.
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Asanteni sana kwa kuwa nasi kwenye hii webinar. We believe you've learned a lot, and if you'd like to refer to anything, we'll post the webinar on YouTube so you can get to get the bits and pieces that you're looking for. Apart from that, thank you, I&M, for joining us in this webinar. It was very insightful. And
For having
Sure.
us.
yes,
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And we hope you all have a good long weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karibuni sana.